Good day, everyone. Welcome again to our class, the Practical Research 2. And now we will be having our topic 3, the nature of inquiry and research, the quantitative research design. Today, we will be talking an important part of research, which is the research design. So ngayon, pag-uusapan natin ang mga disenyo sa paggawa ng research. Kasi one of the important thing in making a research, kailangan alam din natin, or shall I say, in making pala ng mga research title, dapat alam na natin ang mga research design na gagamitin natin. Hindi tayo basta-basta gumamit o gumawa ng klase-klaseng designs. So may mga susundin talaga tayo na designs in making research. So ngayon, pag-uusapan natin ito. Hindi naman ito masyadong mataas, o konti lang naman ito. But before we proceed, let's go back first our previous topic, which is the different types of quantitative, or the differences between the quantitative and qualitative. So this would be the questions. What are the difference between quantitative and qualitative research? That another is, what are the strengths of quantitative research and its weaknesses? What are variables? Ano bang variables? And how do we classify variables? First, what are the difference between quantitative and qualitative research? Single reality versus multiple realities. Ito yung mga kakaibahan nilang dalawa, quantitative and qualitative. Sinabi nating quantitative, single. The qualitative is multiple. So malaki ang realidad niya. Establishing relationship versus understanding perspectives. Relationship ang tinitingnan ng ating quantitative. Sa quantitative, tinitingnan natin ang relationship. In qualitative, tinitingnan natin ang let us understand what is the perspective. Naka-narrate lahat ang pangyayari regarding on the research. Pre-established design versus emerging design. Detached versus immersed. Detached, si quantitative, more on lang siya, nagakuha ng checklist, while si qualitative is talaga siya, tinitingnan talaga niya ang pangyayari ng research. So to generalize versus assess applicability. And then what are the strengths of quantitative research and its weaknesses? Precisions of numbers, level of significance can be computed, sample is less prone to sampling bias, error can be computed. Inadequacy of numbers, less than 100%. Accuracy, limited to proving or disproving assumption. So, iyan yung mga strengths of the research. I already discussed everything last time. So my previous video, nandun na lahat kung anong mga weaknesses and the strengths of research. So what are you going to do is just go back to the video that I have already posted. So nandun lahat. Ang variables, ang tinatawag nating variables, what are variables? Variables are description that have values that vary. Ito yung may mga value, may mga descriptions. So yan yung tinatawag nating variables. How do we classify variables? Paano natin siya ma-classify? Ito ang variables. Variable varies and has values. The values are variables under study or research data. So this would be these variables: chair shape of table, teeth, shirt style. Classifying variables according to the scale of measure. So identity, we have the magnitude, the equal intervals, and absolute zero. And nominal, pag sinabag natin yung nominal scale is characterized by data that consist of names, label, or categories only. Categorized by data siya. Actually, I've already discussed in my previous video also yung sa classifying of variables. Pero ito, simply brief lang ito. The ordinal scales involve data that may be arranged in some order, but difference between data values either cannot be determined or meaningless. Ang interval na tinatawag natin, it is the data for which we can determine meaningful amounts of differences between data. However, there is no inherent zero starting point. And ratio scale is a steerable scale to include the inherent zero starting point for these values differences, and the ratios are both meaningful. So yun tinatawag natin variables. So if you want more kanang information about variables, I have already posted the classifying variables. Nandun lahat halos information about variables. So there is no reason for us to know what is variables kasi binigay ko na lahat yun siya. So ngayon, let's go to our learning objectives as of today. So today we will be having, or we will be discussing different things, especially in research design. After this discussion, you are expected to have the ability to describe characteristic, the strength weaknesses of quantitative research, and differentiate kind of variables according to its scales of measures, and contrast kind of quantitative research. So yun yung mag-uusapan natin sa ngayon. So let us start. Let us start. Quantitative research. Quantitative research design. Ano yung quantitative research design na meron tayo? Correlational, experimental, manipulating conditions, and studying effects. Basta mga effects ang pinag-study natin, experimental yan. At pag describing ang characteristic na tinitingnan natin, descriptive yan. At pag correlation yan, studying relationship. Yan yung ating tatlong quantitative research design. I repeat, tatlong quantitative research design meron tayo. Ulitin ko again, correlational, experimental, and descriptive. Pag tinatawag natin itong correlational at descriptive, automatically non-experimental research siya. Isa lang ang experimental research natin. Yun yung manipulative condition and studying effects. And yung dalawa, yung correlation at descriptive, they are not a experimental research. And now let's go to the first thing that we will be discussing, the descriptive research. So, alamin natin ano ang descriptive research. Descriptive research, this design aims to describe systematically the facts and characteristics of a given population or area of interest factually and accurately. So, i-describe lang natin. Accurate yung pag-describe. So, descriptive lang man siya. So, very easy. No? So, types of descriptive research, meron din tayong tatlo. So, first, observational methods are used to document and describe animal and human behavior in a natural or artificial environment. Observational, nag-o-observe lang tayo, and we are given a time to list what are the characteristics of, for example, we're studying human behavior, so we are studying just observing what happened to the behavior of a student, ganito, ganyan. So, sa animals, no? So that is one type of descriptive. Another is case study. Involves an in-depth study of an individual or a small group of individuals. So case study. So it could involve ang observational methods, ang dino-document lang natin yung particular human or individual, no? Compare dito sa case study, malaki yan na to. Malaki, from the small to big study. In-depth na siya, lalum na siya, no? And survey research design. Survey research design involves administering a survey to a sample or the entire population of a people to describe the attitude, opinion, behavior, or the characteristic of the population. Survey research design. So, nasa survey na tayo. Tinatanong na natin sila. Nag-administer na tayo ng survey. Doon sa samples na tinitingnan natin. Halimbawa, we'll let us study about their the observation of the students regarding the flexible learning of psychological colleges. So that's it. So you're just having a survey of the research or the current issue, no? So yun. Pag sinabi naman natin survey research design, ang tawag niyan, use it when describing trends. Trends means to say showing a tendency to follow a pattern. There is a pattern. So, when describing a trends, we are showing a tendency to follow a pattern. There is a pattern with regards to survey research design. So, merong pattern. Determining individual opinion about policy issues. Individual opinions, is seen as quantitative if these opinions are reflected as levels of agreement to statement in a questionnaire. Opinion on war on drugs. For example, I feel safer walking alone in the streets after the war on drugs campaign. No? Diba? It is an individual opinion. So, pwede siya. So, that's it. So, identifying important beliefs and attitudes of individuals. Beliefs and attitude that yung work in the same way. So, that is identifying. So, that is survey research design. So, types niya are cross-sectional survey. It is used when the researcher collects data at one point in time. The purpose is to examine current attitude, beliefs, cross-sectional yan, opinions or practices, no? Compare two or more groups in terms of attitude, beliefs, opinions, or practices. Evaluates a program. So cross-sectional survey, so for example, you are comparing, nag-cross ka ba? No? Nag-cross survey ka. No? Regarding on halimbawa program, for example, pwede rin in terms of the attitude, so kino-compare mo. Ang isa po is a longitudinal survey design. It involves the survey procedure of collecting data about trends, what happened, no, on the trend with the same population, changes in a cohort of group. So, for example, flexible learning, what happened to that current issue? So, in the particular population, changes in a cohort group or subpopulation, change the panel group at the same individual over time. So that's it. Example of research questions for descriptive design, very important. So examples are, first, what are the sleeping habits of senior high school students in CMC? In the question alone, could able to see, makikita na kaagad natin that these questions only having or wanting to have the sleeping habits of the students. No other relationship na tinitingnan, kundi tinitingnan lang, di-describe lang the study habits. So, very easy. So, what factors affected the senior high school track choice of senior high school students? Diba? Describe lang. What do teenager consider when buying a new phone? Describe. Consideration. What are the most common stressors that affects professors? What is the level of marketability personalized phone cases on CMC students? So it's in that particular questions, makikita na kaagad natin that these are descriptive. Why? There is no relationship involved there. Walang relation na nangyari. We did not have a relationship between two. So pag dalawa na hinahanap natin, relationship na yan. Pero dito pa lang, sleeping habits only. So there is no connection with the students. Students, academic performance or everything or anything, no? So research descriptive design, we are just describing something, no? The variables. Yung variable, i-describe mo lang. Now, let's go to the next one, that is correlational research design. So, correlational research designs aim to describe and measure and degree of association between two or more variables or sets of scores. Ito yung sinasabi ko, if you talk about relationship, we're talking about two or more variables. Dalawang variables dito. Siyempre, talking about relationship, yung relasyon ng dalawa, no? Kung saan ba sila, kung parehas ba sila or hindi, or whatsoever. So, ganun. Types. So, meron tayong dalawang type. First is explanatory research design. Explanatory research design is a correlation design in which the researcher is interested in extent to which two variables or more covary, that is, where changes in one variable are reflected in change in the other. Always take note to determines the extent to which two or more variable. So, yun. Ang explanatory research, yun siya. Two or more determines to extent, no? Covary means to say, ano ba yung covary? What is covary? Covary is means to predict a score on one variable with knowledge about the individual scores on other variables. No? Next, prediction research design. Pag prediction gani, you're just predicting. So one characteristic also of correlation, or one type of correlation, is yung prediction of research design. So seeks to identify variables that will predict an outcome or criterion. Basta gani hype naa siya ka ng prediction, but meron siyang prediction of the outcome and or the criterion. So predictions research design po yan. So yan siya. In this form of research, the investigator identifies one or more predictor variables and a criterion or outcome variable. So ang predictor na tinatawag natin, guys, are ito variable used to make a forecast about the outcome in correlation research. So variables can be the predictor variable or the criterion variable. So research examples niya, mga example ng mga questions: does wearing school uniform have any relationship with the student's ability to participate in class? So in that particular questions, it define the shall I say, nagsasabi talaga siya na ito ay relationship or correlational. Because take note, pag correlation, always we are talking about relationship. Is there any relationship? Merong relationship na. So, means to say, relationship. So, tingnan nyo. Have you seen the example? Kung tingnan natin ang example, hindi lang siya nagpa-vary ng one variable. Hindi lang siya isang variable, kundi dalawang variable. In first question, does wearing school uniform and the student ability to participate, that's two variable. Another is there a relationship between phone brand and Facebook usage? Does mathematical competence have any relationship with person willingness? Mathematical competences and person willingness. Between students' attitude toward research of his real world. Research and students' attitude. So, that particular question, makikita kagad natin na that is a correlational type of research. Now, let's go to the last one, the experimental research. Experimental research, very easy to understand. Pag magsabi tayo ng experimental, it's all about experiment, syempre. So, pag experiment din, it's all about test an idea to determine whether it influence an outcome, no? So, pag experiment, talagang tinitingnan natin kung makakapag-influence pa talaga ang outcome na ito. For example, itinetest natin yung ability ng mga bata with regarding to traditional learning and flexible learning. So, tinitingnan natin kung yung outcome ng flexible learning ay talagang maganda compared dun sa traditional. So, use when the researcher wants to establish possible cause and effect between variables. So, independent variable, it is experimental research, is also frequently referred as experimental or a treatment variable. That dependent variable, also known as the criterion or the outcome variable, refers to the results of outcome of the study. When we talked about independent, ito yan silang mag-stand alone. Means to say they are the treatment or the variable, no? Ang independent, yan yung experimental research, is also frequently referred as the experimental or the treatment variable. So, what variable that can cause change in the subject. Ito yun siyang pwedeng makapag-change. Ang isa dito is the independent. Variables that bear or manifest the effects or caused by the independent variable. So, pag dependent gani, always magmanifest talaga yan siya na ito ay, tawag na ito ay outcome. Outcome ito, it is the effect of what happened when the independent variable comes out. So, through experiments, the researcher randomly assign participation to different condition of the experimental variable. So, meron tayong quasi-experiments include assignment but not random assignment or participants to group. Factorial design represent modification of the between group design in which the researcher studies two or more categorical independent variable, each examined at two or more levels according to Vogt 2005. A time series design consists of studying one group over time with multiple pre-test and post-test measures of observation made by the researcher. More ano dito sa quantitative research na experimental research, always yun natin pakatandaan na pag itong experimental, marami talaga itong pre-test at post-test. Multiple talaga ito. Napakarami. No? So, yun. Pupunta tayo sa different types of research, experimental research. First, we have true experiments. Itong sinabi ko kanina, true experiments. The researcher randomly assign participants to different condition experimental variable. Ang isa is the quasi experiments include assignment but not random assignment of participants with groups. So itong EG or the experimental group o ito yung treatment group natin. Experimental group, pag tinabi natin treatment group, that would be the muna sila ang atuang dependent. So control group ng treatment. Then R is the randomized assigning individuals randomly to group. Pre-test, treatment, then post-test. So, always take note. Pareha lang na sila. The same lang yan sila. So, example of the research design. So, example of the research design. Does the use of audiovisuals in class have any effect on the student's memory? So, pwede. Does playing indie pop music improve a student's ability to solve math problems while in class? Thus, a meme-based ad and social media improve a product name recall as compared to ordinary ad. So, can peer counseling improve a person's school's anxiety? So, ito yung mga example ng experiment. You're experimenting, no? So, gagawa ka ngayon ng counseling, for example. So, in counseling, gagawa ka ng pre-test. Tapos, magka-counsel ka. Tingnan mo kaagad. Post-test ka kaagad. Naway nahitabo sa bata. May nangyari ba sa bata? So, yun. So, that's it. So, that's it for today. I think madali lang naman ang topic natin ngayon. Always take note lang. Balikan lang natin ang 3 types of research design. That would be the 3 types of research design for quantitative. That would be correlation, experimental, and descriptive. It talks about correlation and descriptive. These are the non-experimental. Correlation, studying relationship, and descriptive, studying the describing characteristics. So, very easy ang ating topic ngayong gabi. I know makakatulong na naman ito in making your research, especially in having your research problem today. I think very easy na lang kasi naibigay ko na sa inyong lahat ang mga klasik-klasing mga palatandaan in making research. So, naibigay ko ng classification of variables, kayong mga dapat nyo gawin in making research titles. So, binigay ko na po ang lahat. So, for now on, please visit your Google Classroom for more instruction of your class. And always take note, do not forget to like and put your comment below kung ano yung mga gusto pa ninyong malaman regarding on our topic. So, para matutulungan ko kayo or matulungan ko kayo, shall I say, on making your research design. So, for now on, good night, good day, God bless everyone, and do not forget to like and subscribe my this channel so that you could able to masundan nyo lahat ng aking mga post. So, thank you very much. God bless us.